Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The shooter who murdered 6 people at a Nashville Christian school was under doctor's care for an emotional disorder. Still, Audrey Hale was able to legally purchase 7 firearms, 3 of which were used in the shootings.
The attacker actually texted a friend just minutes before the deadly rampage saying, "I'm planning to die today." Charlene Aaron has the latest on this devastating tragedy.
Police say the shooter, 28-year-old Audrey Hale, a former student at the school, legally bought 7 firearms despite being under a doctor's care. This latest shooting brings into question security concerns at private schools.
Let's go!
Body cam video shows police entering the building at Covenant Christian School, racing to the gunfire to confront and take down the shooter. Officers Rex Engelberg and Michael Colazzo finding and killing the shooter. Witnesses jumping in to help students and teachers fleeing as the shooting unfolded.
The little boy said, "Help me get inside. Help me get inside. How can I get inside?"
Actress Melissa Joan Hart also helping students escape.
We helped all these tiny little kids cross the road and get their teachers over there, and we helped a mom reunite with her children.
Police revealed Audrey Hale was under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder. A friend says Hale messaged her just before the shooting.
The message just reads, "I'm planning to die today."
Hale had purchased 7 guns legally, using 3 in Monday's shooting, leading once again to heated debate of gun control.
There's a moral price to pay for inaction.
Dr. Larry Taylor, president of the Association of Christian Schools International, addressing the issue on CBN's Faith Nation.
I don't think any one of us are immune to the inevitable violence that is just permeating our society.
Meanwhile, Nashville is mourning the loss of students Evelyn Dickhouse, William Kinney, and Haley Scruggs, all 9 years old, as well as substitute teacher Cynthia Peak, school administrator Catherine Kuntz, and custodian Mike Hill. Chaplains from the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team are in Nashville to minister to families and the community. Coordinator James Kilgore describing the fear and heartbreak.
This morning, as I met with the church and watching elementary and preschool parents take their children into school, moms and dad, they left crying. Will their children be there tonight? Will they call them to come pick them up because someone has tried to hurt them?
The group setting up a mobile command center to assist.
They can come by and stop and talk to and pray with and just share their heart. And right now is the time that people need to be listened to, share their stories, share their hurt and their pain so that they can find that healing again.
Meanwhile, Daily.com reports the shooter, who identified as transgender, was at odds with her Christian parents over the issue. Police are continuing their investigation into a motive in the attack. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
I think we need to look very hard at red flag laws. This has been around since the Virginia Tech shootings, these horrible tragedies where someone's under mental care, and whether it's a movie theater in Colorado, Virginia Tech, or a Christian school in Nashville. If you have someone under mental care and they're accumulating an arsenal of weapons, in every single case, there were multiple purchases over a short period of time right before the incident. There ought to be a way to flag that, and there ought to be a reporting database where law enforcement knows it. The gun dealers aren't allowed anymore to sell to that individual, and we get further help for the people involved. This is clearly mental illness. This is clearly someone who's gone into an insane rampage, and we as a culture need to start dealing with this before it's allowed to happen. There's a reason they're buying multiple firearms in a short period of time. You don't build up an arsenal just to have it in a display case. There's a reason you're doing it. So we ought to investigate that reason. There ought to be a legal method for doing it. If we see multiple purchases, there ought to be a database tracking that. That's remarkably easy to do these days. Raise a red flag, find out if there's other things going on in that individual's life. Are they under care with a medical professional for mental illness? If so, then let's act, and let's act before other people have to die. In other news, President Biden's comments on Israeli politics brought a very sharp response from Prime Minister Netanyahu. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Gordon. The president weighed in on the judicial reform debate within Israel, calling on the prime minister to stop the legislation. As CBN's Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Biden's comments reveal a strain on U.S.-Israel relations.
At an airport press event, reporters asked President Biden about the health of democracy in Israel.
Like many strong supporters of Israel, I'm very concerned. And I'm concerned that they get this straight. They cannot continue down this road. And I've sort of made that clear. Hopefully, the Prime Minister will act in a way that he's going to try to work out some genuine compromise, but that remains to be seen.
President Biden added he had no intention of inviting Prime Minister Netanyahu to the White House anytime soon. Later, he told a Reuters reporter he hopes Netanyahu walks away from judicial reform. In response, Prime Minister Netanyahu acknowledged his 40-year friendship with Biden, but tweeted, "Israel is a sovereign country, which makes its decisions by the will of its people, and not based on pressures from abroad, including from the best of friends." He added, "My administration is committed to strengthening democracy by restoring the proper balance between the three branches of government, which we are striving to achieve via a broad consensus." Biden's comments gave political fuel to Netanyahu's political foes. Benny Gantz tweeted, "President Biden sent an urgent wake-up call to the Israeli government tonight. Damaging relations with the U.S., our best friend, and our most important ally, is a strategic attack." Many within Israel believe judicial reform will strengthen Israel's democracy.
The Supreme Court has had virtually unchecked power, making it almost a separate state within a state. It's the rebalancing that Israel democracy is calling upon itself to rebalance the relationship between the judicial, legislative, and executive branches.
Some believe the open opposition by the U.S. towards Prime Minister Netanyahu is to thwart his plans to attack Iran.
I believe that Israel wants to take concrete military action, and by removing support publicly for the judicial reforms or for other policy issues, the U.S. is making clear that they're not on the same page with Netanyahu's agenda.
In the meantime, negotiations continue at the president's residence for those opposing and supporting judicial reform. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. Here at home, the Senate Banking Committee held hearings to get to the bottom of the Silicon Valley bank collapse. The firm's failure was followed by the collapse of another U.S. bank and concerns about the stability of the global banking sector. Senators criticized the Federal Reserve for not taking action despite signs the bank was in danger. The Fed's top regulator defended their actions and put the blame on bank executives.
I hope to learn how the Federal Reserve could know about such risky practices for more than a year and fail to take definitive corrective action. By all accounts, our regulators appear to have been asleep at the wheel.
This is a textbook case of bank mismanagement. The risks the bank face, interest rate risk and liquidity risk, those are bread and butter banking issues. The firm was quite aware of those issues. They had been told by regulators. Investors were talking about problems with interest rate and liquidity risk.
The investigation is expected to go on for several weeks. Some lawmakers are calling for more regulation of the banking industry. Well, also in Washington, lawmakers challenged the military's abortion policy at a hearing of the Senate Armed Forces Committee Tuesday. The policy provides travel and transportation allowances to service members and their families who seek abortions in another state. It also protects military doctors who perform abortions from prosecution. Alabama Republican Tommy Tuberville has vowed to block certain promotions unless Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ends or suspends the policy.
You know, I want to be clear on this. My hold has nothing to do with the Supreme Court's decision to the access of abortion. This is about not forcing the taxpayers of this country to fund abortion.
I heard from our troops. I heard from our senior leaders. I heard from our chiefs and also our secretaries. And this policy is based on strong legal grounds.
Secretary Austin also called on the senator to lift his hold on promotions for the good of the armed services. Well, as Mississippi tries to recover from those devastating tornadoes, stories of survival and rescue are coming out of the catastrophe. One storm chaser who rescued a family from their devastated home is now pledging more help. Johnny Gable headed to the hard-hit area of Rolling Fork Friday. Gable, who's been chasing storms for 5 years, shifted into rescue mode after hearing calls for help. Following the path of destruction, he found an elderly woman sitting in her bed, surrounded by her demolished home. Gable helped the family out of the rubble. He calls their survival nothing short of a miracle, seeing that they only suffered scratches. When he found out they didn't have insurance, Gable started a fundraiser for the family, helping to find them a new home. Well, CBN's Operation Blessing is also on the ground to help serve victims of the disaster. The ministry is setting up a base of operations at the fire station in Wren, Mississippi. That's where they'll serve hot meals and coordinate volunteers to help clear debris and put tarps on homes. OB is also bringing in tons of bottled water, prepackaged meals, and cleaning supplies to distribute to those in need. So far, the ministry has distributed more than 50,000 pounds of relief through churches in the area. And Gordon, as you well know, more is on the way.
More is on the way, and we're just beginning our recovery efforts in Mississippi. If you want to participate in this, all you have to do is give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can call us, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to the Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can also text OBDR, those letters, it stands for Operation Blessing Disaster Relief, OBDR, to 71777. There's also a place where you can designate your gift on CBN.com. We want to be there for the people in Mississippi. Many of them have no insurance on their homes. What do they do? How do they rebuild? We want to be there not just in the initial stage of providing, food, water, cleaning supplies, and then tarps for people with damaged roofs, those kinds of things, debris cleanup. But then the rebuild effort, this is going to be a long-term effort. We need your help. If you want to participate, call us, 1-800-700-7000.